What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are excited for another week of nonstop Dak Prescott discussion. It is Sunday. It is March 7th, 2021. Perhaps it is March 8th, 2021. Perhaps it is even March 9th when you are finally getting a chance to view this. If it is, no shame on you. Don't worry. We know you're busy. But while you're here, make sure you subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We have lots of videos that come out every single week. We do live streams. We have film reviews, breakdowns on draft prospects, and, obviously Cowboys action when the season is going on. But right now it is the off season, and right now we are all on Dak watch. The deadline, the most important deadline, really not the actual most important, but the next one, which is the most important if you look at the world through that lens, is of course on Tuesday, on March 9th. There are 2 days until the franchise tag deadline, March 9th. What does this mean? Maybe you have not been paying attention. Maybe you are just now starting to kind of look at the situation that the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott find themselves in. In case you didn't know, this is kind of like, the beginning of an episode of television. Like maybe you finished WandaVision. You know how at the beginning should be like previously on WandaVision. Well, previously, the Dallas Cowboys have been trying to figure out a long-term contract with their quarterback, Dak Prescott, for now 3 off seasons in a row. In 2019, the Cowboys were eligible, of course, to give Dak a long-term deal after he had completed his 3rd season in the NFL. They were unable to do so, while the Los Angeles Rams, the Philadelphia Eagles got deals done with their quarterbacks at the time in Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. The Seattle Seahawks got a deal done with Russell Wilson. That has turned into an interesting twist of fate. Last year, 2020, the Cowboys had another opportunity with Dak Prescott's rookie contract expiring to get him to sign another long-term deal. Rather, the same long-term deal, but you get my point. The Cowboys were unable to do so. All the while, the Kansas City Chiefs agreed to a long-term contract extension with Patrick Mahomes. The Houston Texans agreed to a long-term contract extension with Deshaun Watson. That has had another change, of course, as you well know. Also, the Dallas Cowboys, because Dak Prescott's contract, his rookie contract, expired, had to place the franchise tag on him. So here we sit in 2021, and the Dallas Cowboys, if they do not have a long-term deal with Dak Prescott done by this deadline, by Tuesday, March 9th, they are going to have to place the franchise tag on him, or else they are going to lose him. The Cowboys, as it stands, have 3 different options, 3 different scenarios, so to speak. Number 1, this is the best. We have highlighted these in appropriate colors. Shout out, of course, to the incredible producer we have here at Blogging the Boys, Charlotte Cushing, the GOAT. Number 1, Dak and the Cowboys agree to a long-term deal. It would be awesome if this happened before Tuesday. Why would it be awesome? Well, the franchise tag is, I guarantee you, if this happens, if the Cowboys are unable to come to terms with Dak by Tuesday and have to tag him, Tuesday is the deadline to tag players, which is the deadline we were speaking of. That will be about a $38 million cap hit that the Dallas Cowboys will have to have on their books as we enter free agency. If the Cowboys are able to agree to a long-term deal with Dak before then, not only will they have a long-term deal with Dak Prescott and therefore security at the most important position in the game for the foreseeable future, but they'll be able to spread that cap hit out over the course of the next few seasons, which is ideal, something that would have been ideal for them to have done starting last year. But hey, bygones are bygones, whatever the case. So optimum scenario number 1, the Cowboys and Dak agreed to a long-term deal. We can put all of this behind us, but right now all of the leverage is in Dak Prescott's hands. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have to come really high up, it would seem, to kind of entice him to do this, and that seems unlikely, again, given the fact that this is now the 3rd offseason in a row in which the team and the player are trying to get this done. Scenario number 2, all right, number 2. The Cowboys place the franchise tag on Dak Prescott. Again, I would say that this is the most likely scenario. This is the most likely outcome. However, this would really be a fine line to walk for the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys will not be able to place the franchise tag on Dak Prescott in 2022 for reasons we will outline in just a moment. And so the Cowboys, if they place the tag on Dak Prescott, would be drawing not a hard line in the sand. By the way, that expression never made sense to me, because if you're drawing a line in the sand, can't you just like kick it over? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't it be like a hard line in like wet cement? That way the line holds and takes hold, whatever. We'll talk about that later. A different video. But July 15th, if Dak Prescott is tagged on Tuesday, the Cowboys will have until July 15th to get a long-term deal done with him, or else, if they do not, he will have to play the year out on the tag, and they will virtually guarantee that he will be playing elsewhere in 2022. That's why scenario number 2 2, while it is the most likely, is very dangerous. Scenario number 3, I would argue that this is the least likely, but it is nevertheless a scenario and a possible one. It does exist in the world if anything can happen. The Cowboys don't tag Dak Prescott on Tuesday, and they just let him walk in free agency. Now, we have talked before here on the YouTube channel. Again, make sure you subscribe. Maybe the Cowboys are enticed by the Russell Wilson idea. Maybe they do believe that that is a cause worth pursuing. If that is the case, then, everybody wants to say just trade Dak, trade Dak, trade Dak to the Seattle Seahawks, trade Dak to the Houston Texans, go get Russell Wilson, go get Deshaun Watson. It's not going to work because Dak Prescott would have to sign the franchise tag in either of those scenarios. And when you consider that this is a situation, a relationship, if you want to call it that has had some ups and downs as far as the contractual side of things have gone, it seems extremely unlikely that Dak Prescott and his representation would sign a franchise tag and help the Cowboys out. Because think about this. If Dak Prescott, even if he wanted to, even if Dak said, you know what, fine, I'll sign the tag, I'll go to the Seattle Seahawks, and you can get Russell Wilson, whatever. This is all hypothetical. Maybe the Seahawks wouldn't have, some contract terms that Dak Prescott would like, and then he'd have to play on another one-year deal and prove himself again in an offense, in a team with players that he's not familiar with, all while still navigating life amid the pandemic. It would be a very, very, very heavy roll of the dice, which is why, again, scenario number 3 is a bit unlikely. But let's talk about each of the scenarios a little bit more in depth. Option scenario number 1. Again, Dak and the Cowboys come to terms on a long-term deal. This would be awesome. This is the best case scenario. This would be incredible. This would be, we would throw a party. We would go nuts. We would go crazy. We would, we'd do something like watch all the Star Wars movies in order, or the machete order, or whatever. Like it would be cause for that wild of a celebration. Now, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott have seemingly been far apart on contract length for some time. A year ago, as you may well know, the Cowboys wanted to give Dak Prescott a 5-year extension. Dak Prescott and his representation wanted a 4-year extension. Why? Why is this year so important? I think it's important in 2 ways for Team Dak. Number 1, the shorter the deal, the sooner you get back to the market, the sooner you get to get a new deal, the sooner you get more total guaranteed money. That's the idea, right? Make as much money as possible here. That's the general kind of, meat of this whole discussion. And so while that is the case, if Dak Prescott's deal is shorter, then he gets back to that apple sooner rather than later. I think, we all still kind of look at things and look at sports through the lens of a long time ago where players want security, players want long-term contracts so that they have that assurance that they're going to be with a team. That doesn't happen anymore. That's not necessarily how sports work in 2021. We've seen this a lot in the NBA, players taking shorter deals, 1-year deals, 2-year deals with player opt-outs and things like that. Now NFL quarterbacks want no trade clauses. There's a lot of player empowerment that's going on. That's a very good thing. So that is important. I think what's also important is you look at the extensions that both Jared Goff and Carson Wentz got from their respective teams, again, at the time, the Rams and Eagles in 2019. Both of them got 4-year extensions. So if you're Dak Prescott, you're saying, well, what's the going rate? What's the market rate? What's the general approximate value for a quarterback drafted in 2016 like I was? It's a 4-year extension. So if you're Dak Prescott, why would you surrender that extra 5th year, another year where you're seemingly in your prime for no reason at all? If you're going to give up that year, something else has to be made in order for you to do so, right? Why would you sign the exact same deal, same amount of money per year, same total guaranteed money, just to give up another year of personal control over your career, in this case as an NFL football player? And that really wouldn't be smart. And so while this is something the Cowboys want a long-term deal. Go look at Tyron Smith's deal when he first signed it in, 2014? It was like a 60-year deal worth a gajillion dollars, whatever the case may be. And the Cowboys like these long-term deals. The Cowboys like when deals are 5 years or longer because it allows them, when you get to this time of the year and you need to find salary cap space, to kind of go make some, to turn things into signing bonuses, to kick some guaranteed money down the road, to prolong it. The longer the contract, the more options you have to kick the can down the road, as they say in the NFL salary cap space. No pun intended there. And so a 4-year deal doesn't offer you as much flexibility in that capacity. And the Cowboys, if you look at all of the long-term deals they've handed out to their cornerstone players, I mentioned Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Smith, Lyle Collins, all of these players, Des Bryant when he got his deal with the Cowboys in 2015, they have all been at least 5-year extensions. You won't find a cornerstone Cowboy that got shorter than a 5-year extension. So I think this is a fair point as well. If you're the Cowboys, you're concerned if we do a 4-year deal for Dak Prescott, now the precedent exists, right? Now, who knows when I was going to say Leighton Vander Esch, but that's not the best example right now. We'll see if the Cowboys even pick up his 5th-year option. But let's fast forward a little bit. Say CeeDee Lamb. When CeeDee Lamb comes time to negotiate his extension and we want to give him a 5-year deal, he's going to say, well, I want a 4-year extension because I want to get back to the market sooner rather than later. I don't want to surrender an extra year of my career. And the Cowboys say, well, we only do 5-year deals. And if you're CeeDee Lamb, you say, we did a 4-year deal for Dak, so why can't you do a 4-year deal for me? And all of a sudden, the floodgates are open in that capacity. And so it's fair. It's fair to understand all of that. However, at the ultimate root of it all, who has the who's the seller, I guess is the best way to put it. Who is selling the thing that somebody wants? And Dak Prescott is selling that. He is selling the quarterback talent. Dak Prescott's not even good. I know, whatever. Dak is awesome. Dak is a top 5 quarterback. He is the seller. The Cowboys are the buyer. This life in the NFL, especially for a quarterback, is a seller's market, especially if you are one of the best at the position like Dak Prescott is, which is why this option is the best for the Cowboys. Look, it's going to look like a lot of money if the Cowboys ultimately give Dak Prescott a long-term extension. It is. But as time goes on, the deal that the Cowboys give, we've outlined this in several videos. Go back in our feed and go look at all of our other videos discussing Russell Wilson, his deal, Patrick Mahomes' deal, Deshaun Watson's deal. The market rate continues to climb. We are never going to see a reality where quarterback contracts dip. You're going to sign your quarterback, and he's going to be the next most highest paid player in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes aside. NFL history. We used to hear that. Think about this. At one point in time, Joe Flacco was the highest paid player in NFL history. Then it was Aaron Rodgers. Then it was Andrew Luck. Then it was Derek Carr. I mean, and then it was Matthew Stafford. I mean, it just is never ending. The next guy is the next guy is the next guy is the next guy. And so, yeah, that's the reality. At one point in time, you have to become the next guy. And then when the next guy comes and the next guy comes and the next guy comes, you dip and you dip and you dip. That's why if you look at Russell Wilson's deal right now, a lot of Cowboys fans are saying, yeah, I would totally pay $35 million a year for a quarterback. Well, you were pretty pissed off at that idea in 2019. So in 2021, that sounds great. Think about how much money this is that we're talking about. Dak's ultimately going to get somewhere around $41 million, I reckon. I mean, that sounds like a lot. It is. That's an exorbitant amount of money. That's a lot of cheddar. But in 2 years after Josh Allen has gotten paid, after Baker Mayfield's gotten paid, after Lamar Jackson's gotten paid, sooner or later Kyler Murray's going to get paid. Soon after that, Joe Burrow's going to get paid. Before we know it, we're going to be living in a world where Trevor Lawrence is getting his second contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, time is going to happen. And when you get to that point, this mark, this $41 million per year, this is going to look like papitas, just like the $35 million that Russell Wilson's making does. And so you have to bite the bullet at one point or another. That is the fundamental thing that the Dallas Cowboys have not been able to understand when it's come to Dak Prescott, which is why they are at the impasse that they are at. But option one, by far the best possible result for the Dallas Cowboys, although the second most likely. The most likely, in my mind, option number 2. Cowboys place the franchise tag on Dak Prescott. This will likely be the exclusive franchise tag. That way they prohibit any other team from even negotiating with Dak Prescott. You want to be safe. Again, this is the most important player, most important position on your team. And again, as mentioned, this means that the Cowboys would have until July 15th to negotiate a long-term deal for the 2021 season, or Dak Prescott would have to play the season on the franchise tag for the second year in a row. If you forgot, if you didn't know, maybe you're trying to connect the dots, this is exactly what happened with Kirk Cousins and the Washington football team, and it saw him leave the organization after the second tag season. Kirk has been very vocal. He's talked a number of different times, a number of different places about how his advice to Dak Prescott has been, hey, the franchise tag can be your friend, and Dak Prescott has been smart about this. Think about this. In 2021, the tag value here for the 2021 season for the quarterback position, because Dak Prescott was tagged last year, is $37.7 million. We're approximating here. In 2022, if the Cowboys wanted to tag Dak Prescott a third time in a row, it would be about $54 million. So think about this. If you're Dak Prescott, right now what you hold over the Dallas Cowboys, all right, you are working with this value, right? And contract negotiating is a hard enough business as it is, because it's so hard to kind of, work the market and say, well, I'm better than quarterback X. I'm better than quarterback Y, so you should pay me more. And while that is totally and completely true in the case of Dak Prescott, what's more is that Dak actually has a very specific variable, a very specific dollar amount that he can use as his leverage. Think about this. We'll call that $38 million, right? $38 million this season for Dak Prescott if he plays on the franchise tag. And the moment that the Cowboys place the tag on him on Tuesday, if it comes to that, they guarantee that, right? They make that a reality. Right now, it's simply hypothetical. Any time between now and the moment they tag him, if they ultimately do on Tuesday, it is all hypothetical. But the moment that the Cowboys place that tag on him, it becomes real, it becomes tangible, it becomes something that they cannot fight or work against. And the franchise tag, if you did not know this, is completely, 100%, fully, absolutely, no matter what, guaranteed. Just like Bryson DeChambeau hitting bombs off of the fairway, crossing water, whatever the case may be. Shout out to Bryson, of course, a Dallas guy himself. Now, $38 million this year for the franchise tag. Next year, that's $54 million. Let's do some quick math here. That's $92 million over the course of the next season that Dak Prescott has to work with as leverage, right? That's what he stands to make on the two franchise tags from the Dallas Cowboys specifically. This is very different for the other 31 NFL teams because the other 31 NFL teams don't have Dak Prescott on the franchise tag like the Dallas Cowboys do. So if you think about that, that's $92 million with two signs of the signature, signs of the pens, swifts of the pen, smooths of the pen, whatever the case may be, for that Dak Prescott stands to make. So his market rate here, his going rate, is $92 million for 2 years. That's 100% guaranteed. 92 divided by 2 is $46 million. So I mentioned a minute ago, let's put the option 1 slide back up here. Option 1 has Dak Prescott making $41 million a year on this 4 to 5 year extension. When you look at it, I mean, Dak in option 2, right now, the reality is that he has $46 million a year guaranteed from these two upcoming franchise tags. So if you're Dak Prescott, you almost need this value to be closer to 46 than not, because if you play your cards right, you can stand to make this much money, which is why the Cowboys are working against this tag value. Now, let's talk about option 3 for a second. We'll throw some more math at you afterwards. Option 3, I find this extremely unlikely, but it is an option. Like we said at the top, the Cowboys just let Dak walk away in free agency this year. They don't tag him. They don't get a long-term deal done. This would be awful. And, a lot of people around the NFL obviously looking at the Deshaun Watson situation in Houston and saying, man, it's going to be super terrible if the Texans have to trade him away. What a disaster, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you what, if the Texans do trade Deshaun Watson, they're at least going to get something in return for him. The most the Cowboys are going to get for Dak Prescott at this point, whatever happens, is maybe a third-round compensatory pick because of, and that's another point of leverage that Dak Prescott has. Deshaun Watson signed his extension last year with the Houston Texans, right? The Texans have contractual control over Deshaun Watson, except for the fact that he has a no-trade clause. But the general point is he is a tradable asset. Right now, as we enter this coming week, Dak Prescott is not under contract with the Dallas Cowboys for 2021. That is why they would have to tag him. And the reality is that Dak Prescott would have to sign that tag. So even if the Cowboys wanted to trade Dak Prescott away to whoever, he would have to sign that tag. So if you're the Cowboys, you're Jerry Jones, whatever, you're thinking, I'll just trade Dak for, this. I'll go get another first-round pick, and I'll draft whatever. I'll do whatever I want. What if Dak Prescott says, I'm not going to sign the tag? I mean, you're stuck. And that is another point of leverage that Dak Prescott has over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I want to spend some time on this. This is where the truth is, all right? If you are a Dak doubter yourself, maybe you have a Dak doubter in your life, right? Maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe somebody you argue with over the internet. Maybe you know somebody that is a Dak Prescott doubter. This portion of the conversation is for you. Really, it all is, but this information is important to you, so make sure you screenshot this so that way you have it to arm yourself for the future conversations and debates that are going to encircle this subject, because that is the reality when it comes to this subject. So we're looking at franchise tag values. Now, these are approximations for the sake of easy math. Last year, Dak Prescott made $31.4 million on the tag. We're calling that $31 million. This year, if tagged, $37.7, again, calling it $38 million. That's $69 million, nice, I know, over the course of last and this season. All right, now, if he's tagged next year, all right, the 2022 season, that is a $54 million franchise tag that the Dallas Cowboys only are staring right in the face. The total value, if you do that math, we did that math for you here because we love you. $123 million. All right, I want to put for a second this option 1 slide up here, because I guarantee you when I put this slide up a minute ago and I said expect a 4 to 5 year deal with about $41 million per year, I guarantee you that somebody said, I wouldn't pay $41 million a year for Dak Prescott. No way. Too much money, too much cheese, too much cheddar. I don't want anything to do that. He's not worth it. He's not worth it. He's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He's not as good as Russell Wilson. I'm not going to pay that. Well, guess what? You already kind of did. Because that's what the tag last year, the tag this year, and the tag next year ultimately factor into. And that's why in 2019, when these values were known, because the way the franchise tag works is once a player is tagged, it establishes the values because they grow off of a percentage basis for the next 2 years. Once the Cowboys tagged Dak Prescott last year, these figures, from an approximation standpoint, became locked in. So Dak Prescott and his team last year knew that if they played the tag game right, that they were staring a 3-year deal, basically, right? Because we're talking about 3 tags in a row. 3 tags in a row worth $123 million. All of this fully guaranteed. I mean, this whole thing is fully guaranteed. All of it, if I could point to the right direction. All of it is completely, fully, totally, absolutely, 100% guaranteed. And this value, 123 divided by 3, that's $41 million per year. So think about this. A year ago, Dak Prescott was getting offered 5-year extensions worth 32, 33, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe, 30, even if it was $35 million, right? $35 million per year with about $110 million total guaranteed. Let's assume that was the case, right? So if you're Dak, you're thinking, why would I sign a 5-year deal that is only paying me about $35 million per year? That's only going to guarantee me about $110 million total, again, for 5 years, when if I play my cards right here, I'm looking at 3 years in a row where I'm going to make more than that per year, and I'm going to make more than that guaranteed, and I'm going to be tied to the organization for a shorter amount of time, so I can get out of the deals sooner and I can get back to the open market much sooner. I can get another crack at the apple much sooner. It's why it made no sense for him to sign any of the offers that he got last year. And that's not saying that the Cowboys had to beat all of these figures a year ago, but all of this really kind of exemplifies the massive mistake that the Cowboys made in 2019. Because if the Cowboys had just been willing to, quote-unquote, overpay Dak Prescott in 2019, they wouldn't have gotten to this point. But when they got to 2020, and when Dak Prescott was literally about to hit the open market, they had no choice. I mean, they had to tag him. And so when the Cowboys tagged him, they were working against the Cowboys. A lot of Cowboys fans and a lot of football fans and NFL fans in general get things so mixed up, and they think that the Cowboys are working against the market. They're working against Patrick Mahomes' deal. They're working against Deshaun Watson's deal. No, this is what the Cowboys are working against right here. These are the values. This is what the Cowboys are up against, because any deal the Cowboys are offering Dak Prescott has to beat this. And it's so difficult to beat this, right? Because you're talking about, he's already in the bank effectively. That is not a literal statement, but effectively, if he's willing to be bold, willing to be brave, Dak Prescott already has and has been on the course, the trajectory for a 3-year deal over $120 million, completely, fully, absolutely guaranteed, averaging $41 million per year. So why would he have signed anything worth less than that would have tied him to the organization for longer? It would have made absolutely no sense. If he had been your best friend, your child, your whatever, you would never have advised him to do this, because it wouldn't have made sense, because this is the way for him to make the most money. The Cowboys stepped in it in a really bad way, and this is why they're going to have to overwhelm him in some capacity. The Cowboys are either going to have to give him a shorter deal so that he has control in that sense. They're going to have to give him more money per year so that he has control in that sense. It's going to have to be $41 or more million per year, right? Or they're going to have to give him so much money in a guaranteed sense that it is worth it for him to surrender those extra years of individual control that he could otherwise have. And that is why the Cowboys are in this situation to begin with. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if he gets hurt, God forbid? What if he plays poorly? What if that happens? How can you say that he's going to get all this? No one's going to pay him that anyway. Okay, let's look at that. He got hurt last year, and he is the number 1 free agent on the market. Think about that. He got hurt in week 5, all right? And look, I know he was on pace. Like a lot of people say that, and I don't want to take away from that. But a lot of Dak supporters actually say he was on pace to smash records. A lot of that was because the Cowboys defense is so bad, which is again a point of leverage for Dak Prescott. But we don't know how that would have played out. Yes, he was on pace for that, but we still don't know how it would have played out. Ultimately, though, he didn't even play 5 full games, and he is still unequivocally the most sought-after free agent on the market this offseason. So your whole, like, what happens if he gets hurt question, it already happened. And his leverage or his attractiveness is not a word. His attractiveness was not impacted in one way, shape, or form. And what's more, like, because I know people say, well, what if he stinks? Dak sucks, stinking Dak, whatever, blah, blah. He sucks, whatever. What if he plays really badly, RJ? What if he goes out? He's got CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. And what if he goes out and he's got this offense and he doesn't play well? Well, I will put this to you. Carson Wentz was the worst quarterback in the NFL last year, right? The worst. I'll give you a moment to laugh because I know you want to. So Carson Wentz was the worst quarterback in the NFL last year. Like, zero doubt. What's more is not only was he like bad from a functional standpoint, but he was bad in the locker room, right? Like all the reports we read and talked about and had a good laugh over that he was causing disruption. He was causing dissension, not getting along with the Eagles coaching staff, didn't want to run the full stuff and all the stuff we heard. So he's a really bad player and he's really bad for the locker room. Okay. That's who Carson Wentz is at the moment. That's the like absolute, read on Carson Wentz right now. We'll see what his future holds in Indianapolis. But that being the case, as true as that is, the Indianapolis Colts, a team who went to the playoffs last year, a very good team, not just like a random team, a very good team gave up draft capital for the right to pay him a massive amount of money and absorb his massive contract. So if you think that Dak Prescott, what's going to happen if he plays badly? Look at what happened to Carson Wentz. The dude was awful. He pissed off everybody in Philadelphia. And in spite of that, a really competent, functional, awesome NFL front office in the Indianapolis Colts surrendered draft capital for the right to give him an extremely overpriced contract. That's crazy. And it still happened. And it's the reality for quarterbacks in the NFL. They live differently. That life as an NFL quarterback means that as long as you represent the classic pH, that's the pH scale, right? That's a thing, right? Like in the pH scale, I'm talking about like the blue, like pieces of paper you do in chemistry. The pH scale, all right? The proverbial hope scale. If you represent the idea of proverbial hope at the quarterback position in the NFL, teams will always believe. The Indianapolis Colts believe. And that's a unique situation. I get it, the Frank Reich factor, and obviously knows Carson and all this stuff. But if you grade well on the pH scale, the proverbial hope scale, you'll be fine. And even if, let's put these values back up here one more time. Even if Dak Prescott doesn't get a deal that resets the market next year with whatever team that isn't the Dallas Cowboys. If we can, consider the fact that Dak, let's say he plays on the tag this year, that's $69 million he would have made in 2 years with the Cowboys, right? He's going to sign a deal worth, I don't know, like $80 million at worst. I mean, like I'm being really dramatic here, but let's call it $80 million total guaranteed with his new team if he leaves the Cowboys next year. So consider that $80 million that he would get for those years. Maybe it would be 4 or 5 year deal, whatever. Plus the $69 million total guarantee that he made from the Cowboys on the franchise tag for 2 years. He still would have made $150 million total guaranteed in that one hypothetical. So he's still coming out ahead from a financial perspective. And so it again shows to the reason why the Cowboys have been so I don't want to say the Cowboys have been foolish. The Cowboys, though, have seemingly, when you look at the numbers here, when you look at the math involved, the Cowboys must have thought that Dak Prescott was foolish because this isn't hard. This isn't groundbreaking. This isn't like, we're not Goodwill Hunting here outside the, classroom looking at the chalkboard. This isn't like, information that we're like cracking the code to see. This is very obvious, simple stuff. But the Cowboys, because they're the Dallas Cowboys, they're America's team, they have this brand and they believe that is a really relevant factor. They, call it hubris, call it arrogance, call it whatever you want, but they must have seemingly believed that would have mattered, that they could have mystified Dak Prescott to the point that he would have not noticed what is like cold, hard, objective fact. And so, I mean, they painted themselves into this corner, and so now they're going to have to really overwhelm Dak Prescott and his representation, or else they're going to be stuck. So again, 3 options for the Dallas Cowboys as Tuesday approaches. Number 1, agree to terms on a long-term deal. We celebrate if this happens. Number 2, they place the tag on him. That would not really suck, but man, it would make life between now and July 15th pretty scary. Number 3, the Cowboys don't tag him. They let him walk. That would be just utterly terrifying. Although that would seemingly indicate, not that this would be anything worth getting excited about, but I cannot imagine a scenario where the Cowboys let Dak Prescott walk and don't have another plan. Call that plan drafting somebody with a 10th overall pick. Call that plan trading for Russell Wilson, whatever. But I just don't think they would let Dak Prescott walk and go with Ben DiNucci next season. I mean, that's the whole point here. But the deadline's coming, and whatever happens, we are going to have you covered here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, so make sure you do subscribe. Make sure you check out bloggingtheboys.com, your home for the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. We also have a podcast network. We put out a show every single day, different voices, different people, different hosts, because we know that things are always happening in the world of America's team. The Blogging the Boys podcast network is available on all major podcast platforms. Search for Blogging the Boys, subscribe, and if you can, leave a rating, write a review. Those things really help us out. We really appreciate everybody that takes the time to do that. We hope you have a great week. We hope we have some fun stuff to talk about and to celebrate, as my voice is starting to crack. It's getting me emotional. I'm all caught up. I'm all caught up because this is fun. We're having fun. Let's hope the fun continues. Hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you next time. We love you.